Hi, my name is Dr. Dave Robertson. I own and operate a very large dental practice in Calgary, Alberta. This practice has 11 dentists, 50 support staff, and we produce and collect between $8 and $9 million worth of dentistry every year. It's a large practice and I own it, but honestly, I don't manage it. My office manager does that. They're two completely different skills, being a dentist and being an owner for that matter, and being a manager. Since we've developed this practice, we've branched out into a lot of consulting for other dental practices. And one of the things that we've consistently found is that the dentists are not that impressed with the performance of their office managers. And when you think about it, it kind of makes sense, because when you look at who the managers are in most dental practices, it's almost always one of the top performers that has kind of worked their way up through the ranks. They started out as being a great dental assistant, they moved on to the front end and receptionist or treatment coordinator, and they were really good at that, and eventually became promoted to office manager. And essentially what ends up happening is these people have great dental skills but no real management skills. And now you've got somebody who's a really excellent treatment coordinator, and they're managing $1 million or multi-million dollar practice. If you had $1 million investment portfolio, you probably wouldn't have somebody with no training managing that money. And yet most dental offices are run by a strong receptionist that has no management background or training at all. And what ends up happening in most cases is, because they're so good at the individual skills, anything that's slightly difficult, they get pulled into dealing with it. So they end up kind of doing everything. Instead of managing the other people to get them to improve and take on the more difficult tasks, they end up trying to run around and do it all themselves, which number one, burns them out, and number two, often makes them a little upset at the other people, because they can't understand why they can't do it as well as they can do it. In fact, dentists fall into that trap too, when we try to manage, and we micromanage in that same kind of a way. So the thing about it, though, when you think about it, is how does being an excellent treatment coordinator qualify somebody to deal with the legalities of terminating an employee, or the difficulty in hiring an excellent employee, or implementing something new, or training somebody, or complying with all the labor laws, which are very complex and changing all the time, or goal setting for themselves, for the practice, or for an individual that needs to improve in a certain area, or disciplining a staff member in a way that's constructive and productive and is going to enable that person to improve, not just chew them out. So as a dentist, it's no surprise that the office manager doesn't know how to do those things, because as a dentist, you probably don't know how to train them in those things. So who's going to train them? If you can't train them as the owner, and they didn't learn it in their prior job, how are they supposed to know these things that they need to know to effectively run the practice? And there's all kinds of dental practice management seminars out there. They're everywhere. And in fact, we run some. And they're primarily about systems, an innovative new way to run your recall system that's an improvement. All that stuff is great. All that stuff is important, and you need to be doing all those things. But they're never really about how to manage. And managing is really about dealing with the people, dealing with your staff to get them to improve and to do a good job and to do what you want them to do. And our office has excellent results in those areas, recalls, collections, and we train people to do that in some of our other programs. And that's where we want you to end up. But if you learn from us or from any management consultant an excellent recall system, but you don't know how to implement it because your manager doesn't have those skills, you're still not going to improve, you're still not going to progress. The other thing we want to teach your managers are, most managers are swamped. They just can't keep up with all the things they have to do, partly for the reason I mentioned before, that everything gets dumped on them. But the other reason is they're often doing a bunch of paperwork that they think is management work, but it's really paperwork. And we're going to show you how to automate all kinds of things. We automate everything that moves. We automate it if it's going to save us time. And part of the program is to show some ways of automating. The other thing we're going to show the managers is the data that we think is important, that we look at on a monthly basis. The things that we look at to try to run our practice better. So we're going to identify what those things are and also show them how to get this data quickly, not at year end, but minute to minute, every day, every week, so that they can deal with these numbers. So, like I said before, I'm the owner of the practice, and I want to make decisions. I want to decide what to do with the practice, where to go with the practice, what needs doing, what I want improved. But I want to leave the implementation and management to somebody else. I don't want to be doing all these day-to-day things. I'm not good at it, and my belief is most dentists are not good at it. So everybody knows that good results come from good management. That certainly has been the case in my office. You know, I've got an excellent manager, and he takes care of all the little day-to-day things in the office that I honestly am not good at dealing with. Just fixing some of the little broken parts that are not running properly, that alone can create a huge boost in the productivity of your practice. So this seminar, it's going to be a small group. This is not going to be 300 people. It's going to be almost like one-on-one training, because any particular issues or particular questions that you have, you'll be able to answer. And you know, we don't mind coming to your office and doing this stuff one-on-one, but it's a lot more expensive. We charge $5,000 for my office manager to spend a day in your practice, $8,000 for me to do it. You know, the cost of this seminar is around $1,000, and in a way, you may get more out of it than bringing us in, because it's kind of like the concept of giving someone a fish or teaching them to fish. If we can teach you how to manage the office better, you don't need as much out of us. In fact, we charge $5,000 to develop an office manual for an office, because it's complicated, and we've got a tremendous template, things that we've developed. It's legally correct. You know, it goes through so many things. For the price of £1, you can get your office manager trained in a way that, for once, they can look at the office with a big picture view, work with you to figure out what kind of things need to be done, and start putting them into place one by one. And it's a one-time investment that is going to pay off year after year after year after year. And obviously, management skills are not going to be instantly created in one weekend, but it's the first step, and it's a huge building block on the road to becoming an excellent manager. And like I said before, you know, things like the office manual, you know, getting your act together, getting organized, getting these policies agreed to. It's too late if you wait until something goes wrong. Get things in place, get things agreed, get things understood, so that people don't come to you. You know what it's like? They come to you asking, you know, most of us dentists are softies, and they ask us for something and we just go, go ahead, you know. And that's expensive when every time anybody asks you for something, you give it away. And it's not necessary to always be giving away everything. You know, it's nice to do that, but the problem is, once you do it for one person, you've got to do it for everybody. You know, this Mr. Nice Guy thing gets you into more trouble than good. And it's hard to say no, but that's what the office manual is about. It says what's a yes and what's a no before the question even comes up. And they've understood it, they've agreed it's fair, so when it comes up, you're not being the bad guy, the office manual is the bad guy. So a dental practice is a real business. It's not just a dental practice, it's a business, and it's a real business. Treat it like one. Protect yourself, get organized, and get profitable. Delegate the staff issues that you probably are not good at dealing with and don't enjoy dealing with. Delegate them to someone else, someone trained. That's going to make life easier for you, for your staff, and for your manager.